water, earth, fire, air.
Greetings, my good Hotman.
This video serves as a continuation of the base game playthrough, which you can find right here. The same rules will be applied to this run as with the initial playthrough. If you find yourself enjoying this video, do drop a like and a comment. This will make me quite a happy koala. So with the quick intro out of the way, Torrent?
Yep, yep.
So, jumping into the DLC, the first thing I did was collect as many Shadow Tree fragments, commonly now referred to as Skibidi fragments. Upon finishing the DLC, I made a small routing map that will help me navigate the realm of shadows. There are a total of 31 fragments in the open world that you can collect without the need of killing any boss. That includes regular enemies like pot shadows and 3 regular hippos. These fragments would allow you to get to level 13 with 2 pieces remaining. Upon defeating the ancient dragon man, you gain access to 5 more fragments. 2 more fragments can be gained when the golden hippo is defeated in the Shadow Keep. Defeating Inquisitor Jory gives you 3 more Skadoosh fragments in the Abyssal Woods, 5 more are locked behind Commander Gaius, and the final 4 are available in the final area of the DLC. In order to gain access to one of the areas on the map, the Oh Mother gesture is also required, which I collected from the Bunny Village along my travels, as well as the Pearl Drake Talisman plus 3 and the Forest Park perfume. But this fragrance by Jean-Paul Gaultier was nerfed into the ground the next day after this recording took place, so you won't be seeing me use this thing much. Before going deeper into the video, I'll talk in brief about the talismans and the stats for this build, the latter of which you can see on the screen right now. So the whole strat for this build revolved around me chugging flasks as soon as I was hit, staying at 100% health at all times. The most important talismans for this strategy turned out to be the Ritual Shield Talisman and the Crimson Seed Talisman plus 1. The third talisman slot would be occupied by the Ritual Sword Talisman, since I would aim to stay at full health constantly, an overall 10% damage increase would not hurt. In cases where I would just take too much damage, I would also consider changing this talisman to something like the Pearl Drake Talisman or the Golden Braid Talisman. And the fourth talisman slot would be taken up by the Radagon's Icon or the beloved Stardust Talisman later on, if I felt confident in fighting a boss. So once I collected the 31 available fragments, I went on over to collect the others, beating the ancient dragon man in the Dragon's Pit. I got over to the Grand Dragon Communion Church, made my way over to the Cerulean Coast, and then, since this area was now unlocked, reached the Stone Coffin Fissure, collecting all of these Catmint fragments I could find. With that done, I went further up the mountain, watching 2 dragons pummel one another, killing the survivor once the fighting was done. Once that slight nuisance was over, I talked for a bit to the best From Software NPC ever and scaled the Jagged Peak further, taking the one available Scooby Snack and completely bypassing the Sinusags boss fight, cause God knows I ain't got the patience for that. With that done, I poured all of these Scammer Tree fragments into my blessing and got to level 15, at which point I was more or less confident in fighting my first Remembrance boss, the Dancing Lion. He for sure was an Avatar wannabe, so Aang had to teach this guy a lesson. With the lion defeated, I got one of the remembrance rewards, which is this talisman, and started progressing Hornsen's quest, but I messed up a bit by siding with him instead of Leda in their confrontation. I'll explain why this is wrong a bit later, but for now, let's get on over to the Putrescent Knight. With the Putrescent Knight done and dealt with, I concluded Tulia's questline by informing him of Saint Trina's whereabouts, and finished Sir Ansbach's questline without giving Freya the letter he hands over to you. That is, again, quite important. Moving on a bit further, I decided to collect a few more Scooby-Doo fragments, for which I needed to defeat the Golden Hippo and Commander Gaius, the latter being quite a big nuisance. I really don't like fighting this guy because of this one stupid charge move that he has, and having it stay in such a broken state for so long is kinda weird on From's part. Like, come on, fix this boss, Michael Zaki, please. But if I turn a blind eye to this one broken move, the Hog Rider is actually a pretty decent fight, with a rather cool backstory. Okay, this guy's dead, time to reap the bounty and smell the flowers. Not those flowers. Anyway, these fragments got me to Blessing level 17, and I wanted to finish off that day of recording by fighting the Shadow Tree Avatar. The main bending element I used in this fight was of course fire. A dried up sunflower is weak to fire. I know, shocking. Next up, I wanted to complete Count Emir's questline, which awarded me with a couple of pretty great talismans, the most important one being the Crimson Seed Talisman +1, Beloved Stardust, and Golden Braid Talismans, all 3 of which will be utilized in some capacity during this run. With the final horn blown, I went into the fight with Meteor, the Mother of Fingers. Meteor was definitely the longest fight of this run, but the reward was worth it. Ask for Remembrance allowed me to get the Staff of the Great Beyond, which is the only catalyst in the game that allows you to cast both sorceries and incantations. Now was the time for the Abyssal Woods, and after defeating Jory, I collected the 3 available fragments and got myself over to Midra's Manse, and after grabbing the Grace, I went on to explore a bit more, encountering another dancing lion on my adventures, and upon defeating it, Aang added another airbending technique to his arsenal, the Divine Beast Tornado, an abysmally bad incantation with horrible damage and a lengthy casting time. After a few minutes of testing, I realized that this thing is just plain bad and in need of a buff, so sadly you won't be seeing me use this thing that often. With that slight detour out of the way, I began the boss rush mode, which began with Midra, the Lord of Frenzied Flame. So, after the boss rush mode was over, I went ahead with burning the ceiling tree using Mesmer's Kindling, and once I was at Enir Elim, my first instinct was to collect the remaining Skadudu fragments, which allowed me to get to Shadow Tree Blessing level 20. Now, as you might know, one of the more frustrating fights in this DLC is the gang fight against Leda and her allies, but thankfully there is a way to make it a lot more manageable. So, you need to do the following steps. Once Mikula's charm breaks, you need to tell Moore to be sad forever, snitch on Hornsent to Leda. As far as I know, siding with Leda removes Hornsent from the final battle, but I'm not 100% sure. Complete Ansbach's quest without giving the letter he hands you to Freya, and finally conclude Tuoleria's questline. This will bring the total number of allies in Leda's encounter to 2, herself and Dryleaf Dane. Sadly, on this playthrough I messed up and sided with Hornsent instead of Leda in their confrontation, but Giant's Flame Take doesn't really care much about the number of NPCs attempting to murder you, it just absolutely blasts fools that try to get in your way.
Suspicions were dead on. Couldn't get you would move. Our pact of blood.
With some wise words from Sir Ansbach after the fight concluded, it was time for the final boss of the DLC. Sadly, upon countless hours of testing, most of the tools at this build's disposal were pretty rubbish in this fight. They were either too slow or dealt too little damage. Only 2 tools were optimal, Stone of Gurranq and Burn of Flame, with Stormblade to keep Radahn's poise from resetting. It is ultimately with the help of 3 elements, fire, earth, and with a bit of help from airbending that Aang will be able to defeat the promised husband, Radahn. Oh, this journey was not over yet. There was one thing left to do.
Curse you, Bale! I hereby vow you will rue this day. Oh, a true great warrior!